Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. I was watching this interview. I haven't watched the end of it, but I've watched. It's 2 hour. It's a 2 hour video, but I watched almost the first hour, and you know, time is precious, even on YouTube. And so when I started this video, I was just going to watch it for a few minutes, but I ended up, watching it for almost 1 hour because it was so excellent. And there's a point that I'm going to be playing now. This is Stephen Wilson being interviewed on Rob Moore's channel. Excellent interviewer, by the way. And he's just asking him about his career and his choices in, creating music and trying to keep all of the fans happy, which, it's difficult for any band or solo artist to, album after album, to keep them happy. There's always going to be some fans that don't like what the artist has created. Either they're not changing their sound, right? It's like they're repeating themselves, or they're completely changing their sound, and it's turning the fans off. So Stephen Wilson has definitely had to deal with fans that, don't like everything he's done. There's the prog rock fans. These are all excellent albums. Hand Cannot Erase is my favorite. Grace for Drowning. Yeah, these are a bit more poppy, to the bone. So, he got some flack from some of his fans. The Future Bites is kind of a poppy, dancey album, but I really do enjoy it. I enjoy a lot of what he does, but I can totally it's similar to a YouTube channel like mine, right? There's people that like my comedy videos and they don't like me doing these music related videos, and then the opposite, they don't like my comedy videos, but they like when I talk about music or whatever. You just can't please everybody. But I'm going to play this little clip here about what Stephen Wilson says about the Beatles. As most of you know that follow me, the Beatles, for me, and even Glenn Kellaway from the Basement, my buddy, he says the Beatles are here, right? And every other artist is below the Beatles for us. I'm not saying everybody agrees, but for me, the Beatles were the only band that had a perfect career. And yes, it was sad when they broke up. And, just like any fan, I wish they had not broken up and they made more albums. But because they broke up when they did, I feel they have a perfect career. And so let's listen to what Stephen Wilson has to say about the Beatles and see if you agree or not, because I sure do.
It must be very difficult being an artist and trying to take your fan base with you, keeping them interested in where they found you and taking them on a journey to where you're going.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that?
All the time. Because I don't, regardless of what people say and what think about me, I'm not going out of my way to upset my fans. I'm really not.
You're giving it a good go.
But I'm really not trying. I want them to like it. Of course I do.
Yeah. I just find it all so interesting, right? Creative people, they, you either take chances with your music or you don't. And I even noticed that with, for instance, Sparks, one of my all-time favorite bands. Any new album that comes out, you're going to go to one of their, Facebook fan pages, and you're going to see people with different opinions about their latest album. It sucks. I don't like it. I love it. It's their best album ever. It's just the way it is with music. You like what you like.
Of course I want them to like
Yeah.
it, but at the same time, I have to stay true to myself, and I have to feel like there's a point to me making another record. And to just make a facsimile of something I've already done holds no interest to me. And I can't quite understand why it would hold any interest to my fans either. But of course it does. The rational part of me understands exactly why it does. To me, I think it all comes back to the Beatles. The Beatles are and always will be the touchstone by which all other pop music is measured.
Now, when he says that, even if you disagree with him, you might be thinking, well, that's because he loves the Beatles. That's his favorite band. It isn't his favorite band. You'll hear later on, he's talking that the Beatles aren't even his favorite band. But even Steven Wilson realizes how much of an impact the Beatles had in music and how great they were.
At least certainly if you come from the tradition of rock music, the Beatles are the standard by which all other rock music is measured. And when you look at the transitions the Beatles went through in an incredibly short period of time, about half the time it takes Tool to make one record. The Beatles formed, changed the world, and I don't say that lightly. They changed the world because their music impacted everything. Youth culture was affected and changed by the Beatles.
Just like Spinal Tap changed the world later on. That's my comedy coming through.
Formed and broke up and made 10 records and 20 singles. Look at the progression. Look at how many times they surprised their fans. Look at the progression from She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah to I Am the Walrus. 5 years. It's phenomenal. And I'm not the world's biggest Beatles fan. I was always Pink Floyd rather than Beatles. But I will always have...
See, when he says that gives what he's saying even more meaning to me. Of course, there's always going to be, I'm sorry, I have to call them idiots out there who would say, oh, the Beatles were just a boy band and they weren't good musicians. And it's
have incredible respect and consider them the standard by which everything else is to be measured, if only because of that sense of progression. And yet, what happened to pop music in the wake of the Beatles really was largely it became about finding a formula and repeating it over and over and over and over again. And that is the norm. Slayer is not the anomaly, they are the norm. The anomalies are the Metallicas that actually try and go and do these little weird kind of projects that upset their fans. They are the anomaly. And yet the Beatles...
Maybe that's what makes them more special to their fans then, that not everyone is...
Right. And I think this is what I was going to come around to eventually. I'm sorry, I'm very long-winded in these things. This is what I was going to come around to eventually. I think that if you do those things, ultimately you do get grudging respect. And
so, yeah, that's about it. I could watch this whole thing. But I just wanted to show that part of the clip. I'll have a link for the full interview. If you haven't heard Steven Wilson, I highly suggest you check out Hand Cannot Erase. And he's also a superb producer. He's remixed a lot of bands' earlier albums, Jethro Tull and Gentle Giant and King Crimson and Yes. And just such a talented guy. And so it just really impressed me that he said that about the Beatles. And because that's what a lot of Beatle fans believe in their heart. But if you weren't born in the 60s like I was, or Glenn Kellaway from the Basement, we're old. But we lived through that period of the Beatles and how they did grow through the years. And it was just amazing how they grew. And so you can see when a band like Metallica changes their sound, right? He talks about this in the interview, like more of it. It doesn't matter what a band does. If they try and change their sound, some fans are not going to like it. And if they try and keep the same sound and just kind of repeat the same kind of album over and over, then, there are exceptions like AC/DC. They kind of almost do the same kind of album year after year that, when they make albums. But they're good, for what they do, they are great. So even Steven Wilson isn't putting down AC/DC when he talks about them. So yeah, I'll shut up now. I just wanted to show the Beatles fans out there and the non-Beatles fans out there what somebody that I feel is I don't know about a musical genius, but he's pretty damn good and smart. What he thinks about the Beatles. So thanks for watching. I'd be interested in some comments below. Bye.